Hi, everyone. Landry Etheridge here with Channing Harris of Charleston, South Carolina. We work together here at Etheridge Counseling Group, and I'm so excited to interview you today, Channing, about spring cleaning for your mind. Okay, what in the world is spring cleaning for your mind, and what is some common clutter that we might be looking for to clean out as spring approaches?
Yeah, so just like we have spring cleaning for your closets, maybe your yard, around your house, as the season changes, we generally find this urge to kind of out with the old and in with the new, refresh everything. And so I thought it would just be a really good time to do the same thing for your minds. The hope is actually that we do that more than just in the spring, but it just felt like a good time as the seasons change to kind of point our attention to that. So, and some common things, like some common clutter, I feel like people often can find themselves bogged down with is, as coming off of the new year, particularly in this time, and maybe feeling you haven't achieved goals, so rigid goals. Also things that really drain our self-esteem, as I like to call them, our pot drillers instead of pot fillers. And then, even things like bad seeds in relationships, like not having good connection with others, feeling disconnected, and maybe even engaging in some poor relationships as well that aren't serving you. And then, finally kind of tying all this is overarching across all those things, but I would even say like, negative thoughts and unhelpful thoughts, things like cognitive distortions that can really bog us down as well.
Yes. You mentioned pot fillers and pot drillers. What in the world is a filler and a driller? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I thought that this was just fun, perfectly on the spring theme.
Yeah,
kind of gardening and cleaning. And it actually comes from Virginia Satir. She's a, a marriage and family therapist theorist. But she equated your self-esteem to a pot, that we each have a pot of self-esteem, and there are things that fill our pot, and there's also things that drill into our pot and cause our self-esteem to drain out. And so really identifying things that aren't helping to build up our self-esteem, but instead tearing it down.
Gotcha. So how do we go about cultivating pot fillers in our lives?
Yeah, I think a really good exercise too is I'll often like even have my own clients draw a pot. I'll have them draw their own pot and kind of, on a piece of paper or in their journal or wherever feels appropriate. You can paint it. It can be fun to get creative with it. But I'll have them kind of identify, well, where do you feel like your self-esteem is at right now? And, draw that as well. So more self-esteem, you have a more full pot, and have them really reflect and think about, what contributes to that. What is it? Activities? Is it places? Is it people? Is it the ways that you speak to yourself? Is that like self-kindness? And then kind of draw that on the inside, write those things down. And then also think about, okay, what about what's keeping it from being higher? Is that harsh self-talk, negative self-talk, self-judgment, shame? Or is that other people, the ways that they're interacting with you, or, unhelpful activities as well?
I love that. Yeah, some things for myself were popping into my mind as you were talking. I think that I can see where that'd be so important to really like set aside some time to contemplate. Something easy to really not think about. How do you manage or remove pot drillers, those things that are draining us of self-esteem?
Yeah, and I think, I listed several different pot drillers. So first off, identifying them is really important because I think each one warrants a little bit of a different response. But, for things like negative self-talk or harsh self-judgment, are there ways that we can foster some more kindness with ourselves? Self-compassion letters, things of that nature. If that's something that you really struggle with, maybe seeking help, going in and talking to someone else that can help kind of foster some self-compassion. And then, same with if it's people, are there people that maybe we can distance? We don't have to necessarily cut them out, but maybe we spend a little bit more time, like moderate how much we're in relationship with them, or spending time with them, or setting boundaries. That can be really helpful too, in terms of relationships. And so it does depend a little bit on what it is. And when you're able to identify it, that can be helpful. Talk a little bit more about that in the article, but At the end of the day, if we're really struggling to combat some of those pot drillers, I think that's where it's really important to seek some extra help.
Yes, yes. Do you have any practical steps to gain and like maintain balance, or is it really about like eradicating all the drillers? Or is there sort of like I don't know, thinking of this idea of balance?
Yeah, and I think managing expectations that there's always going to be drillers, just like pots don't last forever. They get cracks, they have things happen, and we have to constantly, take care of them, see if they need to be repaired or replaced. Kind of that same idea that, there's always going to be things that drill into our self-esteem. That might be a hard season at work. That might be a health thing that you can't control. There's going to be things that we can and we can't control. So really focusing on the ones that we can control. What can we do to change it? What's within our power? And the things that we can't, that's where we really want to lean into. How do we bolster up the things that do fill up our self-esteem, kind of to keep that balance, that we're feeling as, some things are draining us out as well.
Yes. I mean, my therapist told me yesterday, Landry, spending time outside is so, this is your pot fillers. Didn't use that language, but so how are you making sure you're spending time outside? Just doing more of, or prioritizing the things that are that are going to fill you up. Yeah. So crucial. I love this topic. If anybody listening wants to read more, learn more about this, please go head over to the Etheridge Counseling blog and read Channing's work on not only pot fillers and drillers, but about the whole series on spring cleaning for your mind. Would definitely be appropriate for any season. And so valuable, important to kind of creating a really healthy mind and body. Yeah. So thank you so much for chatting with us, Channing, and looking forward to chatting with you more about some of these other topics too.
Yeah. Thank you so much.